Hey everybody, this is Kevin Wallace again, and in this video we want to build on our topology that we've been building for the last few videos, and we want to add another type of unified messaging solution. Now we've already installed in a prior video Cisco Unity Connection, but in this video we want to install Cisco Unity Express Virtual. You see, in prior versions it was hardware that gave us Cisco Unity Express. However, now we're able to run Cisco Unity Express as a virtual machine. Let's go out and take a look at our topology and see exactly what we're going to be building in this video. In the previous videos in this series, this is what we've built. We've installed a VMware server, and on that VMware server, we've installed a virtual router, a CSR 1000V, that's router HQ here on screen. We've installed a communications manager server. We installed an IM Presence Server, which necessitated us to install some DNS services, and to do that we installed a Windows 2012 R2 server, that's our HQ AD for Active Directory server. Then we installed Cisco Unity Connection, that's an enterprise scale messaging solution. However, there's another messaging solution that Cisco offers for small to medium-sized offices, and it's called Cisco Unity Express. And that's what we're going to set up in this video. We're going to call our Unity Express server HQ-CUE for Cisco Unity Express. And prior versions of Cisco Unity Express used hardware that we installed inside of a router. I've used an AIM, an advanced integration module daughter board that plugged inside of the router onto the motherboard. I've used network modules that plug into the back of a router, but there was a physical component that we added to a router, and that ran Cisco Unity Express. It had storage on it. Maybe it was flash storage, maybe it was on an actual hard drive. But in the current version of Cisco Unity Express, beginning with version 9, Cisco has made a major shift in how we're going to implement Cisco Unity Express. And it's virtualized. Instead of having actual hardware that we're going to plug into a router, we're now going to run Cisco Unity Express as its own virtual machine. And it's called Cisco Unity Express Virtual. That's what we want to set up on top of our VMware platform that we previously configured. So let's go out to our VMware server and create a virtual machine for Cisco Unity Express Virtual. Let's say that we want to create a new VM, and in this case, the Cisco Unity Express virtual software that I have, it's in the form of an OVA file where I don't have to define all the parameters of a virtual machine. It's defined as part of the OVA file. So I'm going to create a new VM from an OVA file. We'll say next. I'll give it a name of HQ-CUE. And I can just drag and drop my image into this area. So from another pane here on my computer, I'm going to drag and drop CUE Virtual 9.0.5.OVA. And we'll say next. I'll use our one and only data store. We'll say next. I want it to be thin provisioned. I do want it to be connected to the HQ port group that sits behind my CSR 1000V router. That's what I want. I do want to power it on automatically. Let's say next. And we'll say finish. So let's get this installed. Well, it looks like it is installed. Let's click on it and we'll start it up. Oh, it looks like I was a few seconds premature there because if we look at the progress bars, the machine hasn't completely installed yet, so we need to wait just a bit. And I'll ignore these warnings about the guest OS being other for the virtual machine. So let's start this up. And I'll put this in another tab. And we'll make it a bit larger. The installation is fairly straightforward to get this set up. It says, "Welcome to Cisco Service Engine." Yeah, the service engine used to refer to that hardware inside of our router. Do I wish to start the configuration? I'll say Y for yes, I do. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. What's the IP address of the module? We're going to give this an IP address of 10.3.3.6, and it's a 24-bit subnet mask, 255.255.255.0. My default gateway is my CSR 1000V at 10.3.3.100, and that all looks good. Do I want to use that configuration? Yes, I wish to use that configuration, and I'm going to call this HQ-CUE. We'll press enter. And I'll not worry about DNS services. I'll just press enter and I'll say, no, I do not wish to use DNS services. Yes, I'm sure. And the NTP server, it's already defaulted to my default gateway, which is correct. I've got my CSR 1000V set up as an NTP server, so I'll just press enter for that. And I don't have a secondary NTP server, so we'll press enter again. And I'm in the Eastern time zone in the US, so I'll say that I'm part of the Americas. We'll press 2 for that. And I'll select United States, which is 47. And this is a bit tricky because when it paints on screen, it cuts off the first 6 options and there doesn't seem to be an easy way to scroll back up. So what I did was just experiment with different numbers in the range of 1 through 6. And I found out that number 1, that's New York time. That's Eastern time. That's what I'm in. So do I want to use America/New York? Yes, I do. So I'll say 1. And this is a big deal right here because we can integrate Cisco Unity Express either with Communications Manager or Communications Manager Express as our call agent. And since we've already got Communications Manager installed, we did that in a prior video, we're going to integrate with that. And I'll show you in this video how we can make Cisco Unity Express Virtual be the unified messaging solution or be one of multiple unified messaging solutions for Communications Manager. So I'll say 1 to select Cisco Unified Communications Manager, and it's going to take just a few moments to install. I'll fast forward through the installation process so you don't have to wait through it. And now the wizard is continuing. It's wanting to know my administrator ID. I'll just say it's administrator. Press enter. I'll give a password. And I'll confirm it. And I'm online. We've installed, it's not working yet. We don't have phones that can attach to it, but we have fully installed Cisco Unity Express Virtual. But in order to integrate this with Communications Manager, we've got to go do some work on Communications Manager. Then we'll come back and through a GUI interface, we'll set up Cisco Unity Express to talk with our Communications Manager server. So let's hop over to our Communications Manager and set up a few things. To begin with, we need to add a Cti Route Point. We're going to go under Device and say Cti Route Point. Remember when we configured Cisco Unity Connection, we set up a route pattern that pointed over a SIP trunk that got us to Cisco Unity Connection, and we associated our voicemail phone number with that route pattern? Well, here we're going to associate our voicemail phone number for Cisco Unity Express. We're going to associate that with this Cti Route Point. Let's see if we have any right now. No, we don't. Let's create a new one. And I'm going to call this CUE-RP for route point. And just like a phone, I need to associate this with a device pool. I'll use HQ. I need to give it permission to place a call. So we'll say it has a calling search space of HQ. It's going to be calling numbers that we will assign in a few moments to CTI ports. They'll belong to the internal partition we created in a prior video. And the HQ calling search space has permission to call the internal partition. So I'm going to save this. And let's add a new directory number. This is going to be the number that we're using for voicemail for Cisco Unity Express. We used 2500 for Cisco Unity Connection. For Cisco Unity Express, let's use 2600. We'll do a save there. Let's do a internal partition. I need to do another save. Sometimes we have to save more than once in order for us to get the option to do a reset. Here we go. Now I'll do a reset. And let's just make sure it's there. Sometimes I think I save it and it's not there. So let's do a double check. CTI route point looks good. We've got a route point with an extension of 2600 in the internal partition. Now let's create a couple of CTI ports. We'll go under Device, Phone. And instead of adding a physical phone, the type of quote-unquote phone we're adding is a CTI computer telephony integration port. We'll say next. And let's give this a name. I'll call this CUE-port 1. We'll create a couple of ports for our voicemail system. I'll put this in the HQ partition. I'll give it a calling search space of HQ. I'm going to set the owner to anonymous because these ports are not associated with an end user. They're going to be used by Cisco Unity Express. And I need to set, if I scroll down just a bit further, a device security profile. I'll select the one that we have available by default. And let's do a save on that. It tells us we need to do an apply changes to make it take effect, so I'll do an apply config. And let's add a directory number. I'll give this a directory number of, let's say, 2601. I'll put this in the internal partition. We'll do another save and a reset. Let's add another one. I'll make a copy of this one and say CUE port 2 in this case. Other settings will be the same, except the directory number, of course, will be different. So let's add a directory number. And we'll have 2602 in this case. And we'll put that in the internal partition. And let's go to device, phone, and see if we have our two newly created CTI ports. Make sure they look good. CUE port 1 and 2, awesome. They've not yet registered. They're going to register after we do some work over on our Cisco Unity Express server. And for the Cisco Unity Express server to be able to talk with Communications Manager in the background, we need to set up sort of an administrative user. It's called an application user. We go under User Management and say Application User, and it's a JTAPI user. And JTAPI, that stands for Java Telephony API. And let's add a new user, and I'm going to call it CUE JTAPI. You don't have to call it that, but that'll be easy to remember. I'll give it a password of, I'll just do Cisco. And I want to give it permission to control these devices. Our CUE port 1, 2, and our CUE route point. I'll select those and then hit the down arrow to say they are now controlled devices. Need to give it some permissions as well. Let's say we want to add this to a specific access control group. Let's do a find. And the one group I want this CUE JTAPI to belong to is standard CTI enabled. We'll say add selected. And let's do a save. And we see that this user now has control of these devices. That's what we want. And it's got permissions associated with the standard CTI enabled role. And that number of 2600 that we associated with our CTI route point, I need to say that, hey, that's a voicemail number. So I'm going to go under Advanced Features Voicemail and say Voicemail Pilot. It's going to be a second pilot number. We've already got 2500 as the pilot number to go to Cisco Unity Connection. Let's add a new one, though. To go to Cisco Unity Express, I'll say the number is 2600, and it's going to have a calling cert space of HQ, so it has permission to call those CTI ports. I'll do a save. Notice I did not make it the default for the system. I could apply this on a phone-by-phone basis, which is what we'll do. Let's now say that we have a voicemail profile that's going to use this voicemail pilot number. Under Advanced Features Voicemail, this time we'll say Voicemail Profile. And right now we just have the default profile that points to 2500. I'm going to add a new one though. And this new one, I'll call it CUE-VM for voicemail. And for the voicemail pilot, I'll use 2600. We'll do a save. And now I want to go into a phone that's going to be using Cisco Unity Express as its voicemail server and say, I want you to use this as your voicemail profile. Let's use HQ Phone 1. Under Device, Phone, let's go into HQ Phone 1 and enter the directory number of 2001 for HQ Phone 1. And if we scroll down just a bit, notice we can set the voicemail profile to something other than the default. I'll select CUE-VM, what we just created. I'll do a save. Let's do a reset. And now our work is done on our Cisco Unified Communications Manager server. Now we can go to Cisco Unity Express and using a graphical interface, finish up this integration. And by the way the interface works, I've had issues with some browsers. I've tried Safari for Mac, and I've tried Chrome for Mac, and I've had some issues there with some of the buttons, like the wizard buttons of next or finish. Those don't show up really well. I've had the best luck with Firefox. So if you don't see all the buttons on your browser, you might want to try a different browser. I'm going to use Firefox because that's proven to work for me. So let's go over to Firefox, where I've pointed to 10.3.3.6. Notice, since the system is not yet initialized, it says only administrator logins are allowed. I'm going to log in as my account we created earlier. I'll say administrator with the password we gave. And what I recommend we do now, by the way, notice that we're integrating with Communications Manager, not Communications Manager Express. We could change our mind right here if we wanted to. I'm going to be doing the Communications Manager integration though, and I want to run the installation wizard. My primary Communications Manager server, and I just have one in this topology, is 10.3.3.1. Don't have a secondary. My web username, that's the username that I use to log into the administrative interface of Communications Manager, which in my case is administrator. My JTAPI username we just created was CUE JTAPI with the password of Cisco. And here's the next button. This is what was not showing up for me on some browsers. I'll say next. And if I want to import one of my users, I'm going to say add. And I just want to import one user. And it has a user ID of HQ Phone 1. Let's do a find. And there is HQ Phone 1, so I'll select that. And I'll say I want to add that to my import list. Its primary extension is 2001. I do want it to have a mailbox. It's not an administrator, so I'll not check that. And we'll say next again. And I'm going to say I want to have a blank password and a blank PIN. The password's used when a user logs into their user portal through a web browser. The PIN, that's what they use when they access their voicemail system. And as we're going to see, we're going to be prompted to give ourselves a PIN when we log in for the first time. So it's not like we're never going to have a PIN. I'm just going to make it blank for now so I don't have to write down the random one it gives me. I'll say next. The voicemail number we defined as 2600. And right now I don't have anything set up as the operator extension or auto attendant. There's a lot we can do here, but I don't have any of those extra things set up right now. By the way, how does Unity Express tell my phone that you have a voice message waiting? How does it tell it to illuminate that light on the handset? There's different ways of doing it. We can see from this drop-down menu. I've done a lot of experimenting with this, and they all work, some better than others under different circumstances. Personal preference, I want to choose unsolicited notify, subscribe notify, but by no means is that the only way it would work. That's just my personal preference. And I'll say next. And this is a summary of everything we've done. If that all looks good, we'll say finish. And it's finishing up the integration. In order for it to take effect, though, I've got to do a reload. So let's click on reload, and I'll pause the video. And after the reload is complete, I'll rejoin you. Cisco Unity Express is now reloaded. Let's get logged in. And this is our first look at the CUE administrative interface. And just about anything we need to do, we can do from here. There is a command line option where we can do some things from the command line, but it's really nice to use this graphical interface. Here's where we could go in and we could add users. We could set up groups, all sorts of permissions. We could set up AAA for authentication. There's a lot we can do with scripts. We can say what constitutes business hours. What holidays do we have defined? We can set up different voicemail distribution lists. We can do VoiceView Express, where we have a nice little interface on our Cisco IP phone. We can say how we want to be notified about messages. Lots of administrative tasks. We can back up our configuration. We can run reports. Lots of things we can do here, but in this video, we just wanted to do a basic configuration and get things set up and working. So let's go out to our two phones that we have at our HQ location that we installed in a prior video. HQ Phone 1 should now be pointing to Cisco Unity Express as its primary voicemail server. So let's do this. Let's go to HQ Phone 1 and go through the initial setup of our mailbox, and then we'll call in from HQ Phone 2. leave a message, and retrieve that message. Well, here we have HQ Phone 1 and HQ Phone 2. Let's do the initial setup on HQ Phone 1. I can press the voicemail button.
Welcome to Cisco Unity Express. Take a moment to personalize or update your settings. To exit, press star. A recorded name identifies you to other callers. It also lets others know who left a message.
I'll record a name.
You have no recorded name. To record a new name, press 1. To record a new name, say your first and last names at the tone, then press pound.
HQ Phone 1.
Your recorded name is
HQ Phone 1.
To record a new name, press 1. To keep the recorded name, press pound.
We'll press pound.
When callers cannot reach you, they may leave a message. A personal greeting encourages callers to leave a message. Your standard greeting is, sorry,
HQ Phone 1.
is unavailable. To re-record this greeting, press 1. To set the recording type for this greeting, press 2. To continue, press pound.
I'll just leave it as is.
A password protects the privacy of your messages.
Here we're being
Your
prompted for our
password
PIN.
must be at least 3 digits long. Use a password that is easy to remember, but hard for others to guess.
I'll create a password of
For
12345.
extra security, you can occasionally be asked to change your password. Enter your new password, followed by pound.
I'll say 12345 pound.
Enter your new password again to confirm it, then press pound.
12345 pound.
Your new password is active. You have finished enrollment.
HQ Phone 1.
Hello, you have no new messages. To send a message, press 2. You have no...
We'll go back on hook and let's go over to HQ Phone 2 and place a call into HQ Phone 1, and after 10 seconds it should divert to voicemail.
Sorry.
HQ Phone 1.
Is unavailable. Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
This is a test message. We'll hang up. And as soon as I do, you might be able to see, the light's a little bright here, but you might be able to see that we have an LED illuminated here. That's our message waiting indicator, our MWI light. And we also have a button on one of our feature keys to tell us that we have a message waiting. So I'm just going to press that button.
Enter your password, followed by pound.
And our password is 12345 pound. HQ Phone 1.
Hello, you have one new message. To play new messages, press 1. To send a message, new messages, an unknown caller. Sent message 1 today at 1:13 p.m.
This is a test message.
To repeat this message, press 1. To save it, press 2. To delete it, press 3.
We'll delete it.
To reply to it, delete it. End of new messages. You have no new messages. To send a message, press 2. To review old messages, press 3. For setup options, press 4. For help, press 0. To exit, press star. Hello, Cisco Unity Express Messaging System. If you have a mailbox on this...
All right, and we're done. Well, it looks like we've been successful. Let's go back to our topology and review exactly what we did in this video. In this video, we saw how to add Cisco Unity Express Virtual to our topology, and we gave it an IP address of 10.3.3.6, and instead of being the traditional piece of hardware that would have some sort of storage built on it to store our voice messages, beginning with version 9, we have a virtualized Cisco Unity Express. So we were able to install that on top of VMware ESXi, and we had an OVA file that we used to install it. It was a fairly short installation procedure, but before we could get the integration to really happen with Communications Manager, there were a few things we had to do on Communications Manager. Just to review that, we had to create a Cti Route Point, and we assigned a directory number to that route point. And that became the phone number that we're going to dial to go into this Cisco Unity Express system. We then created a couple of voicemail ports, a couple of CTI ports. Then we created an application user that we refer to as a JTAPI user, and we let that JTAPI user control the CTI route point that we configured, as well as the 2 CTI ports. Then we created a voicemail pilot number to point to 2600, which is the number of our CTI route point. And then we defined a voicemail profile, which pointed to our new voicemail pilot of 2600. And we wanted HQ Phone 1 to use CUE for its voice messaging. So what we did is we went into that phone's directory number of 2001 and we said, we're going to associate you with this voicemail profile that we just created. Once that was set up, then we could point a browser, and we used Firefox because I had had some issues with other browsers. We pointed a browser to the IP address of Cisco Unity Express Virtual, and we went through the installation wizard, which included importing HQ Phone 1 as a user. We set up a mailbox for HQ Phone 1. We said that we did not want to set up any password. We're just going to use a blank password and a blank PIN for now. And then we went out to our 2 phones, and I went through the enrollment on HQ Phone 1 where I set up my PIN. Then to make sure everything worked, I called into HQ Phone 1 from HQ Phone 2. It timed out after 10 seconds. It redirected me to voicemail, specifically the Cisco Unity Express Virtual voicemail. I left a message. The MWI, the message waiting indicator light, illuminated on HQ Phone 1, as well as a feature button, had an indication that we had a message waiting. I pressed that feature button. It dialed into Cisco Unity Express. We gave our PIN, and we were able to retrieve, listen to, and then delete the message. And that's what we wanted to accomplish in this video. I hope you enjoyed the training.